This is part 3 of a 4-part series revolving around new Xenoblade fighters in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. You don't need to have seen either of the previous videos to get this one, but if you do like this, then I'd recommend going back and checking them out if you want to know what I would do for Malos as an Echo Fighter of Shulk, and for Elma as a unique newcomer. Also, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe and stay tuned because this is only one of 2 Rex videos I'm going to make. Today's video is basically about a completely unique moveset for Rex, not thinking about any echoes, while the next video I do will be a specific moveset of Rex designed so that you could have Adam as an easy Echo Fighter of him. So with that out of the way, there's not really much else to say before getting into the nitty-gritty of it. Rex is almost certainly not going to be in the base roster, but if Smash Ultimate does have DLC, he's pretty much the biggest shoo-in for a DLC character, or someone from Xenoblade 2 in some capacity. I could see them also just doing Pyra solo and then Mythra as an Echo or something along those lines, but my idea is basically the best way I could think of to actually reflect how Xenoblade 2 itself plays in a Smash fighter. That way is, of course, to give Rex the ability to swap between 3 different blades in battle in order to alter his moveset. Now the thing is, there are a lot of rare blades in Xenoblade 2. Not even counting cameos like Cosmos, or obviously Shulk's not going to be one of Rex's blades, or any others from the DLC. However, Rex is required to get 3 different rare blades, even counting Pyra and Mythra as one, throughout the story. So, while it does spoil a lot, and I wouldn't recommend watching this video if you haven't beaten Chapter 7 of Xenoblade 2, I could see them doing this, especially given the amount of Xenoblade 1 that Sakurai has spoiled in the past. My ideal setup would be to give Rex Pyra and Mythra, then Rock, and then Nia. Those are all the blades that he's required to awaken at some point in time. If you don't want to go all the way with the Nia spoilers, but are okay with having Rock in there still, because he's from a lot earlier in the game, you could also give him Wulfric instead of Nia. Now, yeah, you're never required to awaken Wulfric on Rex to beat the game, but you are required to pick up his Core Crystal. And on your first playthrough, you're probably going to awaken the Beastly Core Crystal the instant it becomes available. And at that point in time, unless you're doing something really specific, the only drivers in your party who can actually awaken blades you got are Rex and Nia, so there's basically a 50-50 shot that you have Wulfric on Rex in your original file of the game, so hey, it kinda works. If you don't even want to go as far as Rock, then I wouldn't want to put Wulfric on him, and instead, go with the idea of emphasizing all 3 roles blades can have, and give him an attacker, a tank, and a healer. Obviously, the Aegis already serves the role as attacker, but for tank and healer, the Rex only gets Nia as a cannon healer, and if you don't want Rock, you definitely don't want Nia, so what do there? Well, for tank, I'd obviously go with Finch because it's me, but there is a precedent for it. She was one of the first rare blades ever shown off before the game even came out, and she's actually one of the examples of the blade switching mechanic on the back of the box of Xenoblade 2. Finch is on the box more than a Mythra is, and for this type of Rex moveset, Mythra is kind of a shoo-in, so why not also put the Burb? As for a healer, you would possibly want to go with Florin because he was shown off basically around the same time Finch was, but I'm not really sure how to make a Bitball work well in Smash, and I do kind of have another idea. Rex is also required to awaken a Wind Knuckle Common Blade at one point in the story, so why not give him Adenine as a healer? Obviously, the actual healer blade wouldn't do much healing, because healing in Smash would kind of be broken, and that would be 2 wind element blades, so I was thinking maybe also Ursula, because Knuckle Claws would be a pretty easy weapon to give a Smash moveset to, out of the healer weapons, so I'm not really sure on that, but I'll only be going over the Aegis, Wulfric, Rock, and Nia in this video. If you want to come up with other movesets for Rex using other weapons, be my guest. I'm just not going to be here forever, so I only want to go over these 4. So how exactly would Rex and Blades work in Smash? Well, I'm not original, I'm just imagining the same thing most people are, and doing pretty much a reverse Pokemon trainer thing. That is, Rex stands in the foreground, using his blade's weapons to fight, while the blade is in the background offering support and transmitting the little light beam chain thing that they always do. So yeah, that's going to be important because I'm also lifting the affinity system, but switching blades will alter Rex's moveset and alter his stats a little bit. With Pokemon Trainer it was different because you were literally cycling through 3 different characters with 3 different weights, but with Rex it would be a character with the same size, weight, and mobility, just changing moveset, giving a different moveset to the same character as opposed to swapping between characters. So by changing stats, Rex is kind of a middle ground in between his fellow Xenoblade character Shulk and the Pokemon Trainer. He changes stats as well as changing moves with every switch he does. Blade Switch would be Rex's neutral B, and I'm gonna only think of the super spoilery and the kind of spoilery version, so the order would be Pyra, Mythra, Wulfric if no Nia, Rock if Nia, and then Rock if no Nia, Nia if Nia. So it's either Pyra, Mythra, Wulfric, Rock, or Pyra, Mythra, Rock, Nia. But if you hold down the button, like the buff to Shulk's Monado Arts, you can manually select a blade. You could just contain Pyra and Mythra into one slot, but I kind of like the idea of having 4 blades, because that is kind of Rex's gimmick. He can have 4 blades, even if one of them is just objectively better than the other one occupying its slot, but that's beside the point. Additionally, I am going to lift the affinity system from Xenoblade 2 as well. Each blade would have its own affinity that you can build up with Rex, except for Pyra and Mythra who share. Now, if you only want to do 3 blades and don't want to basically give Mythra different specials, that's what I did. Pyra and Mythra have the same normals and everything, it's just that Mythra gives different stats and has 3 different specials. So if you don't want to do that and just want to make Mythra a better Pyra, with this affinity system you could have Pyra just swap to Mythra at maximum affinity, increasing Rex's abilities even more. So, since each blade gives Rex certain stat changes, some buffs, some nerfs, increasing affinity with that blade would pretty much just increase the buffs while decreasing the nerfs and getting him closer to a more optimized fighter. In order to increase affinity, I'm basically going to lift an idea I saw from a few moveset concepts for Shulk prior to his reveal for Smash 4. A lot of people were thinking that he was going to use the tension system from Xenoblade 1, and Affinity in 2 is kind of the successor to that, so why not make it work the same way? Basically, by dealing damage and avoiding attacks, you can increase Affinity with your currently equipped blade, while taking damage and being dodged will decrease it. Now, when I say dodging and being dodged, I mean not just spamming spot dodge, I mean spot dodging where if you didn't spot dodge, an enemy would hit you, so you can't just spam the L and R buttons in order to max build Affinity, you have to actually try. Landing more attacks without getting hit, and getting hit without landing attacks, increases and decreases Affinity more, obviously, and you can only get the Affinity bonuses from each blade when you're near enough to the blade. So yes, like how Pokemon Trainer moved around in the Subspace Emissary, your blade will actually move around in the background and try to follow Rex. It's kinda interesting, and I do want to play around with this a little bit, specifically with Mythra's moveset. Blades are a lot more acrobatic than the Pokemon Trainer is, though, so they will be able to jump around and follow you off stage, but this is designed to try to make you not overextend a bit, because then you lose all your good stat buffs and can't do things as well. So that's 2 mechanics lifted from Xenoblade 2 out of the way, so why not complete the hat trick and add cancelling as well? I thought of giving Rex the ability to basically cancel any attack that hits, or the final hit of any attack, into a blade switch once per combo. By combo, I mean training room combos, because it's probably the only way the game has programmed into it to track combos, and they could probably just port over that system easily. If you want to make it work with a different way of gauging what a combo is, then sure, do that. But whatever, this works too. You can only cancel into the next blade in line if you were just pressing neutral B normally and not holding it down. I tried to imagine a way you could do this to also input a direction to manually select which blade, but I couldn't really think of a way you could do it that would also work in battles with more than 2 people in it, so I'm just gonna say, for quote-unquote balancing purposes, you can only swap to the next blade in line. The enemy will be trapped in hit stun for the duration of the cancel animation and for a few frames beyond, which is only long enough to ensure that any follow-up you have will get a hitbox out, because Basically what canceling is giving you a free extra hit on the end of your combo. Because the blade switch animation can also be cancelled into any attack, barring aerials when you're grounded and tilts or smashes when you're airborne. This is obviously in reference to the fact that if you cancel a blade switch, you can just use another art and cancel out of the blade switch, and that'll power the art up. So, adding the powering up thing too, the longer the combo before canceling, the stronger the attack after the blade switch will be. It'll get powered up to some degree, and however long the combo was before you decided to cancel, the stronger you'll get. Basically a sort of risk-reward system. You pretty much get a mechanic that lets you get a free hit, but if you hold out on using that, you can pretty much zero to death them if you're doing it well enough. With all that groundwork out of the way, we can finally start talking about probably what you all actually came here for, and that would be the actual movesets with each individual blade, seeing as how it's been 11 minutes and we've only talked about one of Rex's actual moves being his neutral B. I'm gonna be going over 5 entire blades here, 4 of which give Rex a completely unique moveset, but since I'm not gonna go super into detail with all of their normals, I'm only really gonna talk about each of their 3 specials in depth, so this still shouldn't take too long. In general though, I'd imagine that his auto attack animations and any arts with the weapon that aren't used as specials would be somewhere incorporated into his tilts, his smashes, and the auto attack would probably be his jab. If you want to take more animations directly from the game, you could also sort of lift the moves the blade uses during a special and make Rex do part of that animation as some sort of other attack. So then, we can move on to the first 2 blades, Pyra and Mithra, with their weapon, the Aegis sword. In general, this would be a longer sword, somewhat similar to Shulk and Ike. A lot of his moveset would be similar to Shulk's, again some of his tilts based off of auto attacks, and his forward smash would be double spinning edge, similar to how Shulk's is slit edge. Both blades would increase Rex's speed overall, but less so than other blades in the future that would increase airspeed and ground speed, as well as his damage taken being a nerf. Pyra would increase damage dealt, while Mithra would increase damage and knockback dealt at the expense of gaining the additional drawback of more knockback taken. Now, if you want to go down the Pyra and Mithra are one blade route, then Pyra will turn into Mithra at max affinity, gaining the knockback buff without the drawback of taking more knockback, swapping her down B to Mithra's down B, but otherwise using the Pyra moveset. Rex, using these blades, would have a tether grab, shooting at his anchor like for anchor shot. For some reason, he just doesn't have the tether grab using the other blades. I don't know, he doesn't use the anchor in any other moveset, so he's not going to do it in Smash either. Moving on to Pyra's specials, we're gonna double up on the anchor and give Rex actual anchor shot the art as an up B. You can use this on the ground, but the anchor would just go out directly in front of him, although if you use it in the air, it's gonna shoot upwards at a 45-degree angle. Both times, if you hit an enemy, Rex is going to pull himself to them and then slash at them with the sword. On the ground, it's pretty much the exact same animation the actual art uses, where it's just a sideways slash that would do normal horizontal knockback. But if you're in the air, Rex will do an overhead slash that spikes the enemy. So yeah, with Pyra, Rex actually has a command grab spike as a recovery, which is kind of ridiculous, but I don't care, I love it. For a down B, there's not really much you could do other than just rolling smash is a slow regular attack, but with super armor or something. I don't know, there's no way to translate aggro into it. You could have it have some weird knockback ratio or sweet spot, but other than that, it's just a normal attack. You'd probably not use it that much, which is deliberately to contrast with the fact that Mithra's down B is very good. For a side B, it's just Sword Bash. Again, I pretty much gave Malos a clone of Ike's side B, but this is basically just going to be Ike's side B, but with backslash property, so it does more damage when hitting from behind. Mithra, of course, has 3 separate specials different to Pyra's, and since Adam isn't a Rex Echo in this scenario, I'm going to take a little bit of stuff from the Golden Country and reinterpret 2 of Mithra's specials from the base game that become her regular art in the Golden Country into Smash moves. Both of these 2 specials will actually play around with the whole blade being near you and affinity system thing a little bit, Basically if you use them correctly, Mithra will jump to your side, so if you're far away from her, even if you're not doing it to attack or anything, and you're in danger or something, you could just input one of these moves correctly, and hey, you got her there, and you got your buffs back. So, Mithra's up B would be Ray of Punishment. I'm sort of taking cues from both it and Sacred Arrow, so Mithra will warp to Rex, they'll both leap up, that's the recovery part, it's mostly vertical, and then they'll hold onto the sword together and shoot a beam downwards at a 45-degree angle. So basically, they do the charge up for Sacred Arrow, but instead of Siren doing things, it's just Mithra doing her usual blast from Ray of Punishment. The beam isn't too big and it doesn't have anything huge to write home about, but it does have a very high hit stun, somewhat similar to one of Robin's thunder attacks. Mithra's side B is Lightspeed Flurry. Now with Ray of Punishment, Mithra will always warp to your side, but it's mitigated by the fact that it's a very unsafe move in most situations. Lightspeed Flurry is pretty much dashing directly to the side at a set distance like a spacey side B, except you're invulnerable sort of during the middle of the animation, and you swing the sword at the end of the dash. That is actually the only active hitbox throughout that entire animation, so you're invulnerable for a bit, but you also can't deal damage. But if you do hit that enemy with the slash there, Mithra will jump to your side and take the sword, jumping into the foreground, and you could basically chain together consecutive side B hits to do some sort of combo like Cross Slash, specifically Cross Slash and not Dancing Blade, because Nia has off-brand Dancing Blade, pretty much. But Mithra's down B is, as you probably guessed, Foresight. This is literally just Mithra's version of a vision, even if it doesn't work that same way gameplay-wise, so it would pretty much just be a clone of Shulk's counter. I can see this kind of becoming a thing with Xenoblade characters. Most Fire Emblem characters have the same type of down B sword counter, whereas the two big Xenoblade characters, and probably Malos, would have a Foresight vision counter thing, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, next blade is Wulfric. He would use a lance, and a lot of his attacks would have Corrin-like range in terms of like Corrin's dragon part range, not Corrin's sword range, but a lot slower and with a tipper. If Bandana D isn't in this hypothetical Smash game, you could take somewhat of a cue from his Kirby game animations, but apply them to Rex as you would apply them to a heavy, despite Rex not being one. Wulfric increases damage dealt to a higher degree even than the Aegis, but lowers both ground and airspeed without making Rex heavier. Now keep in mind, Rex is a relative lightweight. I'm thinking like Young Link, Toon Link levels of light. If you want to think of why this would be, compare him to Shulk. When Shulk takes a big hit in an early game cutscene, he just gets knocked over. When Rex takes a big hit, he gets flung sideways 30 feet. He goes into a huge parabolic arc that I could probably model really well if I chose to, and he lands hard. So, he's lightweight. His normals and specials can be based also on other characters' arts with the Mega Lance. This is something that only applies to this weapon because it's the only one that characters other than Rex can use. Obviously, Vandam can use Rock's dual sides, but he's so much bigger than Rex, and so much more muscular, he could wield the weapons a lot more freely than Rex can, so there's not really any merit in taking any of his animations and giving them to Rex. But as for his specials, his up B is Feral Spin. Now, yeah, it's a spin, so that makes sense to be an up B, but it's a lot different from most of the other spinning type attacks that are used in Smash. It's a much slower thing. So I'm thinking something a bit better at horizontal recovery than vertical, and the last hit has high horizontal knockback, so something, I guess, in between Link and Donkey Kong. That's the only thing I can think of. Down special would be Strong Horn, which pretty much copies the effect of the Mii Sword Fighter custom down B Power Thrust. It's horizontal movement on ground, downward at an angle movement in the air, but with longer startup lag. Just in general, Wulfric's animations have more of that than any of a sword animation would be. This will deal more damage when Rex's percent is lower, basically because that's what it does in Xenoblade 2. His side special would be Heavy Hitter, again just a normal horizontal lunge type attack, but with high startup lag. Moving on to Rock, we got the dual sides. Again, it's just two sides, and you can take hints from Pit's bow knives, but make them larger and less hits per multi-hit attack, so his neutral air would probably be spinning the two sides around him, except unlike Pit, where it hits like 5 or 6 times, it would probably only be once. Overall, though, he would have the shortest range of all the blades, instead focusing more on covering more directions at once than reaching far in one direction. Stat-wise, he would increase Rex's airspeed and jump height, but also increase Rex's damage taken. I would increase knockback taken, but Wulfric kind of already did that, so we're just gonna let that one slide. As for specials, his up B would be Cyclone Smash, an up and then down type recovery move, think Kirby or Eichenkrom's Ether, but with a weapon spin on it, basically. So he spins around and then goes back down, pretty much. Spins around on the way up and then moves back down straight. Down B would be Wild Scythe, sweeping forwards with both sides, and with a relatively high end lag, but compared to the rest of Rock's moves, relatively low startup lag. He gets super armor during the animation, and the scythes reflect any projectiles that touch them during it, so if you shoot Rex from the back while he's doing it, they won't get reflected, but if the scythes themselves touch any projectile, it will get reflected, basically. But Rex takes a couple % of damage per use, obviously in reference to the fact that this is an evasion art that lowers HP to use. For side B, you got Wing Smash, which is pretty much just Donkey Kong's side B, but Rex jumps up and then comes back down to do it, so by jump I mean nowhere near as high as he would be for Cyclone Smash. He just kind of pops up, comes back down, / jump height. Buries enemies on the ground and spikes enemies in the air. Not too big a deal with that, so we can go to our final blade, being Nia's Catalyst Scimitar. This would be a short, thin sword, so pretty much Link or Marth style sword attacks for the normals, probably closer to the Marth side due to the more graceful movements that Rex does using the sword, as well as Nia's actually wielding it in both cutscenes and specials. Using Nia will decrease damage taken overall, and increase ground speed, but will also decrease damage dealt. She has a slightly longer range than Rock, but a slightly smaller range than the Aegis, so in a Rock Aegis Nia type, it would be Rock slow range, Nia mid-range, Aegis long range, but with Rock Aegis Wulfric, it would be Rock short range, Aegis mid-range, and then Wulfric long range. For her specials, up B would be Water Flower. Rex raises the sword up and then thrusts down, which causes a water spout to erupt underneath him. This obviously works in the air because it's a recovery move, and if you're above ground, the water will spout from whatever the closest platform underneath Rex is, but if you're not above any platforms, it'll just come up from the bottom of the screen. The water will push Rex up into a very controlled special fall, so it's a pretty good recovery move, but it also has a wind box that pushes enemies on his level or about so, sideways and ones below him down. However, no damage is dealt anywhere during this attack. For a down B, we've got Hydroblast, which is pretty much just Blade Beam, but with a blast of water instead, that travels in the air instead of actually rolling along the ground. It goes until either hitting something or traveling a certain distance, and doesn't stop at the edge of platforms because it's, well, not attached to them. For side B, we've got Saber Slash, which is effectively a clone of Marth's Dancing Blade. It has a different rhythm than his, and you can't do the tilting thing, but the last slash will always toss the enemy slightly upwards, at a very good angle to cancel into Pyra and use anchor shots, so I'm imagining Rex actually having a few blade cancel combos built into him, so that you can start by using the easy ones and then come up with your own along the way. So this would be, you use Saber Slash, and if the enemy has enough % on them, and you move them across the stage and they're over the edge, you cancel into Pyra, and then use Anchor Shot to go in for the kill. We're not going to put HP potions in Smash, again, because healing, and also because it would just be another mechanic that Rex would have for only one move, since Anchor Shot doesn't have it either, so no potions, basically. But that's all the blades, so there's really only one more thing to talk about. His final smash. The thing is, though, Rex has so many more potential final smashes than Shulk does. The most obvious one would be a Xenoblade 2 version of the chain attack. If Nia isn't a blade, I'd probably make her and Tora the two party members that show up, and if she is, I'd probably go with Tora and Morag, because Zeke would work particularly well as either an assist trophy, sort of in the vein of Magnus, and then combine with Phosphorus, so make him a compilation of Kid Icarus trophies, I don't know, or as a Cloud Echo, which a lot of people have been saying. Or you could take a page out of Ryu's book, but also dial it up past 11 to like 25, and give him a different final smash depending on which blade he has equipped. So that would be just the blade coming in and using their level 4 special. Burning Sword for Pyra, Sacred Arrow for Mithra, Crimson Storm for Rock, Apocalypse for Wulfric, and Divine Sword for Nia. Yeah, I knew I was going to forget one of them, so I assumed it was going to be Nia and kept the wiki page for her open. So you could do that. If I had to pick one of those, I would definitely go with Sacred Arrow, since it is the most iconic of pretty much all the level 4s in the game. So whatever blade Rex has out would automatically swap to Mithra, they'd do the thing, and then it would swap back to whatever blade was out before. Or you could just have Siren actually come down out of space and do some sort of big combo thing. Or you could have the Aegis transform into Numa and do some huge cool sword combo thing. Or you could have Numa use her level 4, which is a New Game Plus spoiler, and not a Chapter 7 spoiler, so I'm not going to go into that. But basically, Rex has so many Final Smash options that I don't even dare pick one for my own moveset. So with that out of the way, though, that's really all there is to this video. Thank you so much for watching, as always, if you've made it this far, and hey, if you haven't subbed yet, and you like this video, you should definitely do that, because I got a part 2 for this coming out whenever I choose to make it, which is probably next week. It's gonna be, instead of revolving around a blade switching version of Rex, a version of Rex that just has Pyra as his only blade, for the express purpose of giving him Adam and Mithra as an Echo Fighter. So, look forward to that, and also leave a like and comment. And, until next video, this is Luxin, signing off.